So the lesson for today is the prisoner. It's based on this week's worth of lessons that have just passed in Course in Miracles that titled "What is the Body?" We talked about this on Thursday. So yes, this is what I'm saying is that we are prisoners of our bodies. It doesn't have to be that way, but it happens in our minds. We get the idea that we are our bodies. And it seems, from the evidence presented, that seems like a pretty reasonable thing to think. But it turns out that when we begin to focus on this in the light of spirit, rather than in the shadow of the material world, we see that we are more than our bodies. And as we do in the meditation at the end, when we do our prayer really for the world, we see that the body is just this small vessel that we've kind of crammed ourselves into. So what the Course says about this is it says the body is a fence that the Son of God, that's you, the body is a fence that the Son of God imagines He has built to separate parts of His self from other parts. It is within this fence that He thinks He lives, to die as it decays and crumbles. For within this fence, He thinks He is safe. Now this is strange because what the Course says is He thinks He is safe from love. And when I remember first reading this and going, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. Identifying with His safety, He regards Himself as what His safety is. How else could He be certain He remains within the body, keeping love outside? Now love here is really what the Course is saying is, love is God. As it says in John, God is love. And so the idea here is that we build the body to separate ourselves, and it says from ourselves, which is to say we build the body to separate ourselves from God. And the reason that we think we need to be safe from God is because we left, because we divided ourselves, because we left God, and we subconsciously now, you're not thinking about this all day as you go through your life, but subconsciously we have this guilt over this leaving or this revolt or whatever it is that you want to call it, and we think that it is unforgivable. Not only have we left God, but we are continually, we believe, struggling, fighting against God. And so we think that this is the ultimate sin. And it's actually what we talked about last week about the separation, the events symbolized in Genesis about the Garden of Eden, that's original sin, and that's where all other sin has come from. And we believe it is such a bad. We've convinced ourselves that it's such a bad thing that punishment is at hand. So we build the body to separate ourselves from God and protect ourselves. However, the body will not stay. We see the evidence of that. The body will not stay. At first, we start out in these little small, cute little bodies, and they grow, and you go through this time of youth where you have all this energy. Well, some of us did, but you feel invincible, and life is you're never going to end, sort of thing. And then somewhere along the line, you start to notice that the body's starting to go downhill. If you haven't got there yet, don't worry, it's coming. And so then this causes, of course, when we start to notice that it really is true that we weren't invincible as we may have believed in our youth, the fear like redoubles, because, well, he says, the body will not stay, yet this he sees as double safety. For the Son of God's impermanence is proof that his fence worked. And do the task that his mind has assigned to them. If his oneness still remained untouched, who could attack and who could be attacked? This is like really important. So if we're all one, if we really in spirit we're all one, then who could attack? There's not two, there's one. So there can't be an attacker. There can't be a victim. Who would be the victor? Who would be his prey? Who could be the victim? Who the murderer? And if he did not die, what proof is there that God's eternal Son can be destroyed? So here's what it's talking about here, and it sounds confusing, but what it's talking about is that at this subconscious level, where we want to believe that we have separated from ourselves, from God, and that we created our own kingdom, the ego is continually looking for proof that that's true. And so that is why we shouldn't say create because it's a different concept. We make the world we see to prove to ourselves that what we believe is true. And any evidence to the contrary, we reject. And so the body going through this decay is further evidence that that the world that we live in is a world of death and destruction. And so now I'm just asking, because the evidence is so compelling when we live in the midst of it. I mean, if we just look around, the evidence is so compelling that this is the truth. This is a dangerous place. The body, comes for a short time and it dies, and all during the time that you're living, there is danger and threat and conflict and all sorts of things to be afraid of, and it's obvious. They're right there before your eyes. Well, what the Course is saying is, that's your movie. That's your fantasy. This is the thing that you have made. Now, so it goes on and says, the body is a dream. The body is a dream. Like other dreams, it seems to picture happiness, but it can quite suddenly revert to fear. Then it says something strange. It says, where every dream is born. Every dream. When it says dream, it's not the dream like you're dreaming of something great. The dream that it's talking about is that illusion of the world. Every dream, every illusion of the world is born in fear. And for only love creates in truth, and truth can never fear. So made to be fearful, must the body serve the purpose given it. So the body's purpose, built by the ego, is to continually remind us of our chosen place. This place of fear, of separation. But this is the great thing that it says. But we can change the purpose that the body will obey by changing what we think it is for. So, both consciously and subconsciously, we have an idea that what the body is for is to get what we want and what we need. The body is a vehicle for us, not just that fences us in and keeps us protected from others, but it is a vehicle to go and seek and get and gather together and grasp and hold whatever it is that we think we need. The body is the means by which God's Son can return to sanity. This is now it's starting to, from darkness it's going to light here in this explanation. The body is the means by which God's Son returns to sanity, and though it was made to fence him into hell without escape, yet has the goal of heaven been exchanged for the pursuit of hell. Now, so let's talk about that for a second. So hell, if we go to what originally it was meant, if you get to just say, for example, just use the Catholic definition. Hell is literally this separation from God. In other words, hell is a place where God isn't. And so if you go to hell, then you go away from God. But then we've got all these other principles that tell us that God is omnipresent, that God is everywhere present. So then that means right off the bat, if we believe that God is everywhere, then a place where God is not is impossible. That's the reason why the Course keeps telling us that we're crazy. When we're thinking that this is possible, that we're in hell. Not only that we're in hell, but that we're separate from God. Because if you can't go anywhere where God isn't, you can't be separate from God. Not even in the body that you think you made. Therefore, this is where the idea comes that it's an illusion, that you're fooling yourself. For all kinds of strange reasons, you're fooling yourself. And so the body, made to affirm and continue the illusion that separation or hell is possible, can be changed in its mission and purpose. That we can, through our own direct efforts, through our own will, decide to give the body a different task. And it's like the simplest thing. We talk about it all the time. It's really simple. Instead of making the body into this vehicle for getting and grabbing and building and piling up stuff that we think is going to make us happy, instead, just shift the focus and the body becomes a vehicle through which we can be of service. And you know what? It's really weird because stuff still keeps piling up. It's just not that important anymore. So the Son of God extends his hand to reach his brother and to help him walk along the road with him. Now is the body holy. Now it serves to heal the mind that it was made to kill. So it's just such a simple thing, right? So you can change this whole thing around. You can stop this. You can stop the suffering. You can change the whole thing around. This is why the sign outside, it says, identify with spirit. Because here, the reason that we suffer so much is because we identify with the body. And the body's always in trouble in one way or another. I mean, not just because over time the body is decaying, but because it's always demanding stuff when we identify with it. It always needs something to make it feel better. And the ego continually promises it more things to make it feel better. And then it never really delivers. Gives a taste of it. It gives a little bit of it. It gives a moment of it. But it's not consistent, and it doesn't. And it's not. And this is the whole thing. By design, these things that we get, that we seek and then get, by design, they don't satisfy for any extended period of time. Because if they did, we wouldn't have to go seeking more. And the whole idea is to keep us active in this seeking, to distract us from this true goal, So instead of then, so what this writing is really asking is to say, listen, just change your focus just a little bit. Instead of when you go out into the world and you meet your brothers and sisters, instead of being, somewhere within you a little suspicious, a little fearful, a little standoffish. Instead, in your mind now, see yourself with them. Actually visualize yourself taking them by the hand and together walking down a road, a path. And you think about the path is your spiritual path, okay? And the road is your road back to oneness. And now this can all just happen just in visualization first. But once starting that cycle, once starting that process of seeing it in our minds, that this is our task, and it's what we talk about is proper service, doing the right thing for the right reason at the right time. Being helpful. The Course continually talks about this, being truly helpful. Being truly helpful is to release our fear so that we can teach ourselves and our brothers that there is nothing to fear. So sometimes when you read the words here, it's kind of confusing and it seems convoluted, but the message is always this really simple message. Just help your brother see that we are all one so that you can see that we're all one. That's really we can think about it intellectually all we want. It sounds like a good idea. Sounds nice. Boy, wouldn't it be nice if that was really true? We can consider all these ideas and we can discuss the ideas, but where the benefit comes is when we actually see it and feel it. And the only way that we can know it for ourselves is to know it for the other person. It goes together. It can't go, and really this is how it always happens, is all of these ideas are talking about the oneness, the unity of all life. We cannot experience it unless we see that everyone else is in it with us. So and that leads to all of those problems of judgment and everything else, because anytime we hold anyone out, just because of the way it works, if we hold anyone out, we hold ourselves out. We have to let everybody in. And that doesn't mean you have to take everybody home with you. That doesn't mean you have to hang out with everybody. That just means that in our minds, we have to see that everyone is in. And I know for sure that it's not for us to actually interact physically with everybody. There's not enough time. But I also know that there's certain people that come into our lives where part of our lesson is that we're supposed to interact with them. But again, the Course is really clear about this. It says some people come for just a short period of time and then they go. And other people come for the whole seeming lifetime of this body. So what that means to me is that I don't have to hold on to a relationship where we really aren't helping each other. That I can let people come and go in my life, but the important thing is that in my mind, in my heart, I have to see that we are still one. Even though, for whatever reason, when we interact face to face, it's detrimental. So this is why when I get the calls, which I still get quite regularly, where people think they want to leave their lover or their spouse or whatever, and they want to know. I have people ask me still, I'm trying to figure out if it's God's will for me, to get out of this, right? Well, that's not what God's will is about. God's will is about extending love. God's will is about us coming together, right? So I say, and this is always got to be the answer, and I don't care how the story comes across. If somebody calls you and tells you a story about how their partner mistreated them, you just got probably not even half the story, right? You don't know, you weren't there. And even if you were there, you'd have misinterpreted something anyway. So, but the fact of the matter is, God's will is not for you to go or to stay. I mean, I'm saying that God really doesn't care whether you stay or whether you go. What God's will is for you to extend love wherever you are, whether you stay or whether you go. And so what that means, of course, is if you go with anger, then you go with suffering, and you will keep suffering. But if you go with love, or you stay with love, either way, then you release the suffering. So this is how it has to be. If someone, and it should happen in this kind of natural way. So we're together with someone for some period of time, and I'm not just talking about romantic love. I'm just talking about all sorts of relationships that we have. We come together for some period of time, and if we naturally drift physically apart without animosity, there's nothing to worry about. But we should examine and see the reason that we're not talking to this person, the reason that when they call we're ignoring the call, the reason that when we see them on the street we cut our eyes and hope they don't see us. That when we understand that the reason is that we've got some difference with them, that means that amends are necessary. Forgiveness is called for, and we need to care for that. So this is how the body becomes a vehicle for uniting us rather than dividing us, is that we have the body do its tasks. And this comes up over and over again.